The Mill, Manotick, Ontario. Anna Crosby Courier could not have been happier. She had just returned to Manotick, Ontario from a honeymoon in New York with her wealthy new husband, Joseph Merrill Courier. On this night in 1861, she held tight to her husband's arm as the couple proudly showed guests around the five-story mill Joseph and his partner, shipping magnate Moss Kent Dickinson, had built on the Rideau River south of Ottawa, the primary shipping lane between Ottawa and Kingston, Ontario. Dickinson and Courier had spent lavishly to equip the mill. It had been originally built in 1860 to grind flour, but was later expanded to house woolen and sawmills. Hand-carved woodwork could be found throughout the mill. The walls were plastered and imported burst stone quartz from France and used in the milestones. Courier had thrown himself into his new venture in part to help recover from the loss of 3 of his 4 children due to scarlet fever and the subsequent death of his first wife, Christina. Joseph Courier had asked Anna Crosby to marry him about a year after the mill opened. So it was that after the wedding and honeymoon, the couple had invited friends to join them at the mill for a reception and tour of what was then one of the most important businesses in eastern Ontario. Exquisite in a floor-length gown, Anna strolled through the mill at her husband's side, smiling delightedly as he pointed out the mill's costly details. It was on the second floor that the unimaginable took place. Large grain bins spread over the floor had forced the couriers and their guests to split into several smaller parties. Somehow Anna got separated from the rest. Suddenly her long skirt became ensnared in one of the gears and she was yanked towards a large spinning shaft. Her screams were drowned out by the pounding din of the grinders and the thundering water turbines. The shaft spun her around and heaved her against a wood beam, crushing her skull. That's where the revelers found her minutes later. Oh, God. Moss Dickinson brought out the distraught Joseph Courier shares and owed the mill for a number of years. Several owners ran the operation until 1972 when the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority bought what was by then called Watson's Mill. After fully restoring it, the authority opened it for public tours in 1975. Anna Crosby Courier became a highlight on some of the tours, her ghost that is. There was that second-story window from which a pale young woman sometimes stared. She would quickly duck away whenever someone gazed too long or too hard at her. Then she would resume her forlorn pacing on that floor, the same on which she had been killed. An official with the authorities said people usually saw Anna on summer nights when the shadows are tall. Emily Carr, St. Anne's Academy, British Columbia. The old St. Anne's Academy was a girls' school and convent at one time. It was also the spectral home of eccentric Victoria artist Emily Carr and maybe a few of her friends. In 1991, retired businessman Arthur Knight told reporters he saw twin ghosts while he was out walking. It startled out of my wits. Shaking like a leaf, he described the figures as 2 women in hooded cloaks, one shiny white and the other gray, standing upon the front steps of St. Anne's. One woman was taller than the other. They disappeared at his approach. He took several photos, one of which shows an indistinct shape in a window of the building. Another photo of the path and steps shows no footprints in the freshly fallen snow. Now, I'm not a religious person and I'm not a superstitious person, but I do believe in this phenomenon. I was really shaken, Knight told a reporter. He added that he didn't tell many people about his experiences. I didn't do anything else because it sort of makes you seem silly. At the same time Knight saw the ghostly duo, a group called the Concerned Citizens Association was opposing a plan to turn St. Anne's into a tourist attraction. A spokesman for the group said many people had seen the ghost of artist Emily Carr there, but nothing else. A local cable television producer wanted to interview Carr's ghost, especially after he saw it too. It was early evening, the man said, and we were walking past St. Anne's. We looked up and saw a figure in one of the top windows. If she's trying to communicate, TV is a good medium. There were no reports that Emily took him up on that offer. The Good Doctor, Sydney, Nova Scotia. The inexperienced may find it strange that real-life hauntings are quite often nothing to be feared. To many people, the knowledge that there is someone unseen with them while they go about their daily tasks is a comfort, and brings a peacefulness that is difficult to explain. Such is the case with Miriam Seawack of Sydney, Nova Scotia. She works for a stevedoring firm housed in an old building on the government wharf in that Cape Breton island city. During World War II, the structure was used as a naval hospital. It's no wonder that an occasional apparition would make an appearance where life and death walked hand in hand. I've seen images in different sections of the building, Miriam began, so many times that I no longer think it strange. But one night, something different happened. I was working late alone when I smelled pipe tobacco. Not smoke, but fresh tobacco. I thought nothing about it at first. Then it happened again. Not only does no one smoke in her office, but there hadn't been a pipe smoker in it for months. The Steve Door Company has the only offices in the building, so Miriam doubted the tobacco smell could be coming from elsewhere. Later, Miriam related the incident to a friend. He reported back to her that his own father said the pipe smoke was probably coming from Dr. Stewart, a physician during the years the building had been a hospital. He was always filling his pipe, Miriam was told. Although she hasn't been able to strictly confirm the identity of the doctor, Miriam points to several other incidents as proof that the good doctor or someone haunts the offices. She calls him it, her friend. I was talking to my niece and the owner of the firm, Jim. When he asked me if there was anyone else in the building, I told him that there wasn't. He then said my friend had just walked into my office. He described what he had seen, a silhouette in the shape of a man gliding into my office. That's exactly how I had described my friend to other people after I'd seen him. The firm's secretary was working late one afternoon when she heard a man cough in one of the lower offices. She didn't think anything of it until she left her office a few minutes later. No one else was in the building. Who, then, coughed? Fearful of answering her own question, the secretary grabbed her coat and left. One of Miriam's friends has had 2 unsettling experiences in the old building. Once he stopped in his office on Saturday morning to check for incoming fixes. He had his dog with him. He was walking down the hall and his dog came up to the washroom door and started to growl, Miriam recalled. My friend knew someone was in the washroom and suspected a burglar. The dog growled steadily, and all the hair stood up on the back of her neck. My friend went in to check, and there was nothing to be seen. He closed the washroom door, but the dog stayed out there until he left the office. He knew there was something there, but only the dog could see it. Several times Miriam's friend had heard file cabinet drawers opening and papers being shuffled noisily about in offices that are dark and locked. Miriam is one of those witnesses to the supernatural who take the experience in stride. I know my friend is here. I feel he will always protect me. I don't fear being alone in the office. The only thing that frightens me when I work at night are the living, who hang around the wharf area. If the spirit that occupies the office were evil, I would have been gone long ago. I feel only peace when I work alone. For that, Dr. Stewart or whoever deserves to be commended. Mystery Ghost, New Westminster, British Columbia. The 13th room, turn-of-the-century Victorian mansion certainly looked like a haunted house. From its fish-scale wooden shingles and meandering porch to the picket fence with old wrought-iron hinges and heavy latches, the New Westminster home seemed pulled from a Charles Addams cartoon. Its situation on a dark, tree-shrouded avenue added to its gloomy bearing. Looks are deceiving in this case. When the couple with their 3 teenagers bought the place in 1967, they knew that an extensive renovation was needed. A series of owners had left it in serious disrepair. The father was a carpenter, and so he undertook a room-by-room facelift, taking down walls and doors and building new rooms. It wasn't until 2 years after the family moved in that their friends staying in the guest room saw the mysterious figure at the window. And even he learned what happened. It was especially hard for the father to believe his project might be haunted. He was a person who believed there was an explanation for everything. His wife was more open-minded about the possibility of a ghost. Later, other mysteries were added, including the sight of a female specter gliding down the staircase. The shadow of a woman, the mother told the reporter. It was the only thing it could have been. She was wearing a long dress. Then there were the times when one had the sense of someone being at one side. Sometimes it happened on the couch while a family member watched television, a sensation that an invisible figure had sat down close by. Late at night, a cold whirlwind enveloped the mother and followed her as she did her housework. Despite his approval that events should be explainable, the father had his own shocks. The first occurred one night as he headed off to bed. He'd flipped off the downstairs light and started up the stairs when someone or something grabbed my hand, he said. It was as if there was a person next to him holding his hand as he climbed the steps. He finally jerked his hand away, not quite knowing what to think. There was a bathroom light that took a solid pull on the switch to turn it on. Family members downstairs would hear it click on and off when no one was upstairs. Was there an explanation for the haunting? A Vancouver psychic who visited the mansion saw an older man in an upstairs room standing over a wash tub scrubbing clothes. Shortly after the house was built, a family lived there who used to employ a Chinese man to wash clothes. Could that be who the psychic saw? Perhaps, he said, although the particular ghost he had seen might have been just passing through, and not even the resident that was the haunt. The psychic said there might be another candidate. He surprised the mother by detailing her family history, even stating accurately that her father's sister had died young. And he added, her spirit now frequently visited the niece she never met in her mansion at New Westminster.